Give a little love, give a little more this time. Give a little love, if you give everything will be fine. Give a little love, it'll come back if you just try. It'll feel right. Give a little love.
No, you have not accidentally stumbled onto an episode of Pet Pals TV, but we are going to talk to the star and host of Pet Pals TV, Patty Spitler, as well as some of the other projects she has had in her illustrious 40-year Hall of Fame broadcast career. Good afternoon. I'm John Cinnamon, and I'm your host for another Indiana Broadcasters Hall of Fame Spotlight, brought to you by the Indiana Broadcasters Association and the Indiana Broadcast Pioneers. It's a series of broadcasts here on Facebook where we will put the spotlight on a Hall of Fame inductee. Now, if during the show you have any questions for Patty, you can put them here in the comments section, and we'll get to those as time allows. And also, if you would like and share this with your friends right now to make sure that they all see it and can tune in. So let's get started here. A 2018 inductee into the Indiana Broadcasters Hall of Fame, Patty Spitler has had a 40-year career in radio and TV broadcasting. She was one of the first female disc jockeys in the country in the 1970s, starting in her hometown of Dayton, Ohio. From 1982 through 2004, Patty was a news anchor and entertainment reporter for Wish TV in Indianapolis, has been nominated for 17 Emmy Awards, and is the winner of one. She retired in 2004 due to Meniere's disease, an inner ear condition that causes hearing loss and balance issues. But she's since returned to television as the host, reporter, and producer of Pet Pals TV and Great Day TV, and it's always a great day when you can spend some time with Patty Spitler. Hi, Patty.
I'm exhausted.
We've only just begun.
Oh, okay.
There's so much to talk about.
Well, thank you. And you know, it's funny. I made some notes here so I don't forget some stuff, but it's a lot. I would prefer to be you, the interviewer, than the interviewee. So I hope I'm not boring, and I can help give folks a little bit of something in these times, something that maybe a smile or two.
Sure. Yeah, this is, I guess, probably a little unusual for you being on the receiving end of the interview, because you've done so many interviews in the last 40 years.
Well, actually, more than 40.
More than you care to remember?
Yeah. I started in college radio, and I was 21. I took 5 years off, though, as you mentioned, because of my hearing loss. And I have my cochlear implant on this side.
Right.
And I got a hearing aid in this side. Meniere's disease, and it got progressively worse. It started in 1987 and got worse and worse and worse. And finally, as I always say, when you're doing the news and you're repeating, you got to get the news right. I say when fatal fire sounds like flat tire, it's time to get out. Because you have to take this out, and I'd have to put it's an IFB so I could hear the producer. And it was too stressful. So December 24th, 2004 became official January 2005. I had to quit. I found a dog that I wanted. I've always had cats, but dogs take, as you know, with Reggie, take more time. So I went to the dog park and loved and just enjoyed my animals for 5 years. And then they came and said, "You want to do a pet show?" And I thought, well, that won't last. That was 2009. So I love what I do. We're up in 25 markets now, too. So
wow,
cool.
That's great. We can get into a little more of that as the show progresses. But I think you had one particular story from your broadcasting career that you wanted to share with us to start.
Which one? Which one?
That one?
That one. That's a good one. Larry Batson was always a wonderful regular guest on the noon news with Eric Halvorson and I, and he would bring on he's just got a slew of exotic animals, and he also goes out to schools and goes to nursing facilities, retirement homes, and educates and entertains the people. He also has a baboon named Elizabeth that lives in his house with him and his wife. So Larry's gone through some health issues lately, but we love him and we wish him well. He does an amazing job for education. But Larry brought the snake on set, and I think Eric was a little afraid. I wasn't, because I've dated so many of them. Okay, with that, here's Eric Halvorson.
It looks like you do have a scared look on your face. Yes, we are joined by the aforementioned Eric Halvorson. Now, let me give Eric his dues. He worked at Wish TV for 30 years. By his count, 17 of those were as co-anchor with you, Patty. He's currently the manager of corporate affairs for the Central Division of Kroger. And in fact, that's a sort of a little replica Kroger, old Kroger store behind Eric right now. Eric, thanks for joining us with Patty.
Oh, thank you. I love that picture of the snake, because those were in the days before we had wireless microphones. So we could go only as far as the cord would let us go. I think if we had our way, we'd have been back against the wall with that thing there.
Eric, it looks like you're doing that thing where you're trying to make yourself look bigger to frighten the animal. Did it work?
I dare you bite me, snake. I did get bitten by one of Larry's snakes once. It was a small one, so it wasn't like that. But I'm told that one of the guys in the control room just about fainted when he saw it happen.
Yeah, and when Larry would come on and bring a reptile, especially a snake, remember when the front desk, they'd leave. The receptionist would leave. They'd leave the building because Larry Batson was bringing an animal in. Oh, it was great fun. It's great.
Yeah.
Now, by Eric's count, Eric says that the two of you worked together for 17 years. I think I saw somewhere else that it was 15 years.
I think 15 is what I
was good at math.
The interesting distinction, though, I believe, is that other than the venerable Mike Ahern and Debbie Knox tandem, you two have the longest co-anchor tenure in Indianapolis television.
Yeah. And we were number one. Remember, number one. Of course, we had the help of The Price is Right and One Life to Live, and it was just great. It was a half. It
helps when Bob Barker is the lead-in, right?
Bob Barker, yes, spay new to your pets, as he would say. But
our colleagues, Patty, you'll remember one of our colleagues who said, with those two shows on either side of us, a monkey could do the show and still be number one.
I'm not against monkeys now. Larry has a baboon, so it's okay.
Yeah.
It's okay.
And it did help. So.
Now, we have a picture here of Patty and her mother. And from what I understand, Eric Halvorson's entire career, he has your mother to thank for that.
All right. I have to tell this quickly then. My mom, Hope, feisty New Englander. Oh boy, I think Katharine Hepburn kind of thing. But she was feisty, and that's good because I inherited some of that. I hope. When Ray Rice was my first co-anchor, he asked, because I was actually doing the weather. I'd gone from Indianapolis afternoon, and then that went under when the corporation got sold, and stations got sold a lot. And then I did the weather for a while, and even though it was okay, it wasn't good for me. I needed. There we go.
That's
Wood.
Your weather team right there.
Yes. Look at that. Okay, I was the hot babe on the team. Woo woo. And Stan Wood, Randy Ellis, and Tom Magnuson, and they were excellent. I mean, these are meteorologists. I was a weather girl. I didn't know where the storms were coming from. I learned. I got a little better, but it wasn't my thing. So then in 1985, Debbie Knox was going into the evenings with Mike Ahern, and because she was anchoring the noon news, and so Lee Giles put me on with Ray Rice, and I found out later because Ray's still a friend of mine. And a great guy. And he said that he told Lee to use me. Now we fast forward. Ray then left. He came back later on. It's TV. Things are changing. So I was anchoring the noon news, and Lee Giles said, let's find a co-anchor for you. So it was Dave Barris and Neil Moore and Eric Halvorson, and they all would, take turns anchoring with me, and just to see what the chemistry was like. And so my mother, Hope, again, who has very strong opinions, said, you need to tell them that you need to have Eric Halvorson because he's so erect. He sits up straight in the chair. So If that helped, I don't know. But of course, Dave Barris went on to do the Daybreak News. It was wonderful. Neil Moore is still working, I think, over at Channel 4 now as a producer. All great guys, but it was because of Hope that Eric got that position. And she loved you, Eric. She just loved you.
Well, we had a bond. There was something too, Patty. We did a cooking segment with you at your house or Hope's, and she was doing some commentary off to the side that just made the story that much better. Just kind of, it was almost like she couldn't believe that, one, you were trying to cook, and the other one it was proving to be not one of your greatest skills.
No, I told you I moved over, I downsized and moved into this place. I got a kitchen, got a new oven, and that was 12 years ago. I put a new oven in, and last year I found a cobweb in it because I don't cook. I used the top, the burner microwave, but when you live alone, and the dogs think I can cook, so that's fine. I can put some hamburger in the skillet, and that's good. It's all good. It's all good. Thank you.
Well, you guys have had a long time together. Let's go back. How far back was this? This is clearly at, what is this? Is this Victory Field?
Yeah, yep. I bet that's the opening of Victory Field.
Yep.
And do you still have those jerseys?
We had to give them back. I was disappointed.
Eric still got all his hair, though. That's great.
And let's see. Here's another one from. Wow. Well, I see it's 1997.
1997, the Final Four. Wow. Yeah.
That was fun. From the convention center downtown.
Yeah. That was a lot of work.
So working together for so long, did you ever have any of those times on the set that you see every once in a while where you just sort of get the giggles and it becomes inappropriate laughing?
Yeah, we had a few.
Well, also you've got to be serious when it's a serious subject. You can't be, guffawing, snorting, chuckling when it's a serious story. But also at the end of every program, either Eric or I, and Mike Ahern actually started it in the evening news, is we write a little kicker, something funny to leave. We used to try to leave people with a smile on the news. And I was known to be a little risque at times. And Eric.
What?
Me? And Eric, just for fun. Come on, life's too short. Let's have some fun. So Eric would take his pencil and pen and push it into his hand so that he would cause him pain so that he wouldn't laugh. And one time I made him read the word panties in the end. I don't remember the kicker, but it had the word panties in there. I think he started to bleed. He jammed it in there so hard.
I definitely left a mark.
It was fun, yeah. It's going to leave a mark.
Yeah, there were several of those.
So often you had celebrities come into the studio, right, who were in town promoting something, a show or a concert. Any of those that were particularly memorable, either because they were nicer than you thought they were going to be, or maybe, not as nice as you expected them to be?
Eric, you want to go first? What do you want?
Well, the nicer than I thought they were going to be. Carol Channing came in once.
Oh, yes.
I was, for some reason, expecting some pretentious Broadway star, and she was terrific.
She was great. Yes. I wrote down some that we shared together. Peter Marshall. Remember him?
I enjoyed him. I had asked him about a movie he was in when he'd been in a comedy duo that I didn't remember. Yeah. But we talked about that, and he just had a great, friendly attitude and smile. He was a blast.
He was great. And I remember we used to have, there would be groups, mostly school children, that would come in and watch, and there was a whole group of kids over watching while I was talking to Peter Marshall too. Sherry Lewis came in for Lamb Chop, and I remember she went in to get, we didn't have makeup people. They, and she asked us, who's going to do her makeup? And I go, well, you want me to do it for you?
Did Lamb Chop need makeup?
He already had his makeup. So I went back into the dressing room there, and she had her head, it was down, she was taking a nap in the dressing room. She fell asleep. Marvin Hamlisch, remember, Eric? We had a piano in the back room that they dragged out, dusty and everything. But of course, with Marvin Hamlisch playing, It was they can't do that anymore. They used to go, whether they're coming in for a comedy show or Starlight or whatever they're coming in for, they wanted to promote it, so they'd come on TV. But now, they just don't do that much anymore. McLean Stevenson, he loved Eric from MASH. Tell him, Eric.
Well, one of the best parts about that was I don't remember why he was in town, but he stuck around after the show, and for some reason, we had White Castles in the studio. And he came over and started eating sliders with us. So that was it was a treat. We just shot the breeze afterwards. And you never know quite what you're going to find when you see some of these people coming in.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. He liked you too. I can tell that. Kiss came in, a couple members from Kiss. And I remember they ate upstairs there was a conference room, and we got them a lunch. They expected, like, New York or LA, that they'd get served. So either Eric or I would go out and get something for these people and bring it back. So, of course, the studio was a mess. But the surprising one was Peter, Paul, and Mary came in, and Eric went and got them lunch. Tell us about what happened, Eric.
Yeah, I think it was Crawford's Deli, wasn't it, across from Methodist Hospital? We got, she wanted a chicken salad sandwich on a croissant. She was very particular about what she wanted. She had to have it before the interview, and then she didn't eat it. She just left it up in the I guess we had her in a conference room and just left it there. So that was,
and it was a mess. It was a mess. Yeah. There was stuff. Why? Here's a basket to put your trash in, and they just threw it on the floor.
I think you had mentioned Kiss came in and they sort of trashed the place. Peter, Paul, and Mary trashed the place. It's obviously the cliche is real that these rock stars or music stars, talk about, hear about them trashing hotel rooms, and they have no respect.
Well, they didn't ruin anything. I mean, they didn't write on the walls, but it was just, there's a basket. Is how much effort. But then again, if you've got peons and minions around to pick up stuff after you, maybe. So we were playing the peon part that day. Let's see. Ellen DeGeneres came in.
Mm-hmm.
She was not happy that she wasn't the first thing on the show. And I've read some stuff lately, and I thought maybe it was just us. Maybe it's she was in Indianapolis, but she, and also let's keep in mind, these people may be having a bad day. They maybe didn't want to get up. So you give them a little leeway, but she wasn't happy that she wasn't the lead story. She had to wait.
And obviously this had to have been 20 years ago, or
it was
long before she had the TV show. It was just when she was a stand-up comedian, right?
Or
did she have? Was it during her?
No.
TV show.
No, I interviewed her for the TV show too when she started, because it started on Wish TV when it was CBS, and then they switched.
And I don't mean her talk show. I mean the show, the sitcom.
Mm-hmm. Oh, no, she was just doing. She was traveling through.
Okay.
On stand up. Barney Fife, Don Knotts came into town, and you were expecting him to be like Barney Fife. He was so shy. He was so quiet. Tommy Chong kept hitting on me on set. Do you remember that, Eric?
Yeah, he was fun. He was pretty much like you would expect him to be. I'm not sure that was a character. I think that was real life for him.
Yeah, maybe he was smoking something. Who knows? Then we have, let's see, Shirley Jones. Tell us, Eric.
Well, that was one where we start thinking the fun ones and the not so fun ones, because she came in with a very particular idea about how the interview was to be done. And normally our interview guests sat in one chair and Patty and I sat in another, and Shirley Jones said, "That's not my good side." So we had to very quickly rearrange the entire set so she could sit on the opposite side.
Yeah. She was very particular. Now, she'd done this for a long time, so she knew what she wanted. You have a picture, I think, John, that I sent you of Debbie Boone. Now, she was someone who was
I'm afraid I don't have that.
You don't have that? But there's someone who was nice in person and nice on the set. She was very agreeable. And then we have, did you find it?
Mm-hmm. No, I didn't.
No,
go ahead.
Mr. Blackwell. Remember the guy who
the fashion maven. He was before Joan Rivers became the it's awful, that thing.
Yeah, he was very. I meant to bring in my pin that he gave me. He gave me a pin that was a heart pin with diamonds in it, or fake diamonds. I need to check that out. Anyway, fake diamonds. And before we went on, he was like, I don't like this. I don't like that. Why am I sitting here? But the camera went on. He was like, hi, everything's great. So as soon as the light went on, he was on. So I give him credit for that. He was wonderful. He was
So
great
obviously, now these have all been people that came into the Wish TV studio. Patty, you did a lot of interviews where you actually flew to Hollywood and did the interviews out there. Anything memorable from those interviews, good or bad?
So many. I started in 1985. My first one was Mad Max Beyond Thunderdome, and I got a call, would you like to, do movies? And I thought, well, I'm doing other things, and I was covering theater at the time locally here. It was a busy time, and so I started, and it seemed to take off. I remember I was hired to be a reporter and an anchor. I wasn't hired to do entertainment, but that's what caught on. So that was my weekends. I'd fly out Friday night, come back Sunday night or early Monday morning. Mad Max Beyond Thunderdome. Let me see. I wrote down a couple things here. And then our junior entertainment reporter can chime in. 1985, this was for the CBS Star Weekend. We used to go out for that when CBS would, they flew you out to talk to the stars of the new shows. I had dinner with Lucille Ball at Chasen's.
Oh,
cool.
Wow.
She smoked through the whole dinner. Ate maybe just a little bit, smoked, but everybody was smoking then at the table, so that's fine. Rode in a limo with Tom Selleck.
Wow.
Oh.
Yeah, he was going to his apartment or hotel room or something. It wasn't there at the interview, and I had to go to the airport. And he said, "Well, come on, ride with me." Nice guy, let me tell you. There's no real story here other than he's a nice guy. Robert Redford, interviewed him many times. Quiz Show was one of the ones, and I remember that he took out. He was the director of the movie, and he took out these pictures because he knew that I liked animals, and he wanted to show me all of his horses. 1998, then he did the movie The Horse Whisperer. So I knew that he was a big horse lover beforehand. Morgan Freeman, who doesn't love that voice? Oh my goodness gracious. Arnold Schwarzenegger. One time he bounced me on his knee during one of my skinny periods, and I told him I'd lost some weight. And you know what? I liked it. I'm fine. You want to bounce me on your knee? He was the one too. If you were a gal and you wore a dress or a skirt, he would always tell you, "Oh, you look marvelous." But if you wore, pants or jeans, he didn't say you look bad, but he wouldn't compliment you. So but he was always an excellent interview. George Clooney, first time I interviewed him, Dusk to Dawn. And I remember I went in because I had worked in Cincinnati before I worked in Indianapolis doing radio. And Nick Clooney, his father, was like the Mike Ahern of Cincinnati. And I did some telethons with Nick Clooney. So I go in to talk to George Clooney. And I end up talking. I said, I know your dad, and your dad and I did this. And I walked out of the interview and go, I don't believe I just spent the whole interview talking about Nick Clooney, his father, when but nice guy. I interviewed him several times. He was always a nice guy. He gave me a pat on the rump once when I walked by, and I liked it. Okay, then we have, 19, I think it was 89. Larry Hagman, Dallas was big. And they took all the CBS people. This was for CBS, not for a movie. And we were invited to his house. We went to his house. That's where I met Walter Cronkite. All these CBS stars were there. And it was, wow. It was amazing. And then they had a pool party. And I won't tell you what was going on at the pool party. But it was just, Larry Hagman was the most gracious host in the world. Let's see, what else? Recently, Dolly Parton. I talked to her for some movies, Steel Magnolia. I took my mom to that movie, and I remember that she was very nice. She met my mom, and Hope just thought that was great. Very nice lady. And talked to her recently about she had an album out 2 years ago. So she's talk about someone who controls their work. She does, and she knows what she's doing. And then most recently, I talked to Secret Life of Pets. Dana Carvey walked into the room, and he goes, "I know you." And I go, "Oh yeah," because we talked before, and I looked it up. 1992, Wayne's World, and I had talked to him then, and he remembered that. Smart.
That's amazing. Tell us about this one. Tell us about Betty White.
Betty White. I looked it up. During the pandemic, I've been cleaning my basement. I've cleaned this basement you ever saw. Found a box, and in it I found this picture of Betty White. I think it was like 1984. This was for Indianapolis Afternoon. She had been on the show and came on, and we interviewed her. And I remember that I made a mistake, and I said, "Oh, I love when you said on the old Mary Tyler Moore show that had just ended." And I said, "Oh, when you said go suck an egg," and she said, "No, that wasn't me. That was Cloris Leachman." I was so embarrassed. I got the wrong. Well, anyway, we talked a little bit. And I said, "I'm going to this event tonight for the Humane Society," and she goes, "Well, I think I'm going to go too." So she showed up at the Humane Society event. We got together. We smiled. She forgave me, and I love that picture. Now I know how much she loves pets as much as I do.
We do have some questions from the viewers. Let's put one up here. Donna Burns actually had two questions. We'll go with the second one here. If you weren't in broadcasting, what else would you have chosen, Patty?
I can't, not cooking. Let's see, what can I, there's not much else I can do. I would like, now that I've been covering a lot of stories for the animals and learning about pets and wild critters, I think I'd love to be, if I had the brains, a biologist or work with conservation. They do wonderful things that when you mess up the chain and one species goes extinct, it messes everything up. So if we could learn to all get along a little better in the wild world, I would love to be a biologist. I think that would be amazing.
Okay. Here's one from Rita Rose. We all know Rita. She says, did you ever pull pranks on each other on or off the air?
I don't think we did we?
No.
Other than just trying to crack each other up with the kickers?
There was one time, though, I had been on a vacation and came back with a very hot salsa, and it was too hot for me. And Patty, as I remember it, said, oh, it would be fine. That wouldn't bother me. So I brought it in, and Patty tried it, and you had to leave the set for a little bit. It was that hot. So I do remember that. That wasn't really a prank necessarily, but it was a food test gone bad.
You know, and that's something, we didn't pull pranks on each other. I mean, it's a relationship. You see each other every, 5 days a week. And then Eric was my junior entertainment reporter. You need to tell the Ninja Turtle story too. And so you need to get along, and we did get along. I wasn't acting. I mean, then you see the best of somebody and the worst of somebody, and we went through some traumas together with our personal life. But when you go on, that's also your job, and it makes it's easier and better when you're friends, off the set. That wasn't a struggle.
Yeah, the chemistry was important for all of us, with you and I working together and Randy in the mix. Randy is still telling the same jokes he was telling when we were on the set together. But
a funny joke is a funny joke.
And the people behind the scenes too, I think, were as much a part of that show as we were, because they watched out for us. They kept track of different things, and there were so many different elements of that show from people you never saw that helped make it a good show. So it was a great team in front of and behind the camera.
Yep, it was. And Steve Rickle, director, wonderful. I'm sorry.
Jason Cottingen wants to know if you have any Chopper 8 memories, or
that's Eric.
Were you up?
Yes.
Okay.
Well, there were a couple of points. There was one where I remember we were reaching some turbulence while we were up, and I thought, well, I'm not going to worry about it if Keith, the pilot, isn't worried about it, because he's a pro.
Wow. When
we hit one pocket and Keith said a 4-letter word, I thought maybe I need to be a little more concerned. And there was one time flying north from Columbus. There was some flooding in the Columbus area, and I zoomed in on a cow standing basically chest deep in the water, and on the back of the cow was a goat standing on top.
Oh my gosh.
The goat was dry because he was standing on the cow. The video never survived, because I would love to be able to show
I know.
somebody.
I'd love to see
But that was one of my favorite instant memories.
Oh, that would be great. Wow. So what happened to the goat? I want to know what happened to the cow.
They were delicious.
Everything's fine.
Here's a question from Roger Kinnaman. Both of you can answer this. Who was the person who you consider your mentor in the business? Patty, we'll start with you.
Whew. Well, there weren't that many when I started. There weren't that many women in broadcasting. Now, I need to say, because I know, with everything going on in the world, everything's going on. All the men that I worked with and the men who hired me, everybody was really very nice and helpful. And they knew I may not be the smartest, I'm not the prettiest, but I was a hard worker, and by golly, that I could do. But everybody was helpful and encouraged me, and I can't say anything bad about any of my bosses. Well, maybe one, but that's for another story. And it's just, no, it was time to go. That's another story. Mentor, I liked, again, we saw her. I loved Mae West when I was too young, but I saw some of her old movies and I loved her lines. Come up and see me sometime. So I thought that was fun. And then Betty White. I just loved Betty White. And so happy I got to meet her. I wish I could see her one more time. But to me, the hardest part about doing the news was reading the news stories. I want to do interviews. That's what's the most fun. Every day is different. Yes, you use the same skills, but every day it's different. You learn something different. You learn everybody talks differently. What can you get the best out of them? So that every day is a challenge. And I enjoy that more than just reading a script.
Eric, do you have a particular mentor that you know of?
I don't know that I would have a traditional mentor, and I will say this for even knowing it's going to sound like I'm sucking up to Patty, but I would say Patty was maybe my unintentional mentor. She made me better as an anchor because I worked with her and learned from her and tried to pick up on her style. There's no way I could, yeah, you didn't teach me that. I had to learn that on my own. But just because of the kind of person you were and how comfortable you were on the air and still are, that was what I aspired to be. I don't think I ever quite made it to how you were on the air, but you were who I looked up to in so many ways.
Oh no, I'm gonna cry.
Yeah, that's sucking up.
Yeah, that's sucking up.
That's the way it comes across, but it's true.
Oh, geez. Well,
Patty, you touched on this a little earlier on the top of the show, but let's talk a little more about your hearing loss, and because you've been very open about that over the years, and how it really had an effect on the first half of your TV career. You're back in TV now. We'll get to that in a second. But what was that like when you realized that it was happening and it was going to affect the actual career that you had chosen for yourself?
It was 1987. I had my first episode. That's what they're called at work, and I fell over. Debbie Knox took me to Riley Hospital, and Dr. Miyamoto. They did some tests, and right away he goes, "That's Meniere's disease." I never heard of it. I don't want to. So anyway, go home. Good months, bad months. Sometimes it would go away. Sometimes it would come back. The problem with Meniere's is you never know when it's going to hit. All of a sudden you go, whoop. And then there's some of this going on, and your eyes jiggle. It's water in the inner ear. We're made up of a lot of water. And if you get the water out of balance. So I was lucky enough it went bilateral. It went from this ear into this ear. So I used to answer the phone with this ear, and then I couldn't anymore. So you make do. The thing when you're on TV, and I mentioned that I had Meniere's disease, but you can't talk about it every day. You're covering a story. That's the story, not, oh, Patty's making excuses because she can't hear what's going on. So, Eric would write me notes when I couldn't hear things. David Barris, the last year and a half, I anchored with him at noon, and he would write me notes because I couldn't hear. Now, what I can do, there's several things going on now. Number one, I don't have to hide it. Yay! I tell everybody, I'm Patty. I have a hearing disability. Let me see your lips move, which is really hard with masks, by the way. That's really hard. And speak the King's English and look at me. And by the end of the day, I'm exhausted because I have a hearing aid in this ear, which I took out to put my earbud in. There's a hearing aid, baby. And this is my cochlear that I got just in January. They activated it. And there's that.
And the cochlear implant, for people who don't realize it, it's not an instant fix for hearing. You basically, you literally have to relearn how to hear. Isn't that right?
Your brain has to relearn that hear sounds. And they took some video. Brenna Donnelly came out and took some video of me when it first turned it on. I was like, whoa. So your brain, and I haven't heard on this side for a long time. This is the one this is my lead hearing. So when they turned it on, I have to learn words all over again. I'm supposed to read to myself. I'm supposed to turn off the closed captioning and listen. It's a learning process because they bypass the ear. There's nothing going on with this ear now. The sound goes to my brain. So it's technology, it's amazing what they can do. That's why I'm an advocate for here in Indiana. I want parents to know the options that they have for their children. And I advocate for pets, and I advocate the other one. This weekend, NAMI, National Association on Mental Illness, I went through severe depression after I quit. It was awful. Before I got the dog helped me. But 1 out of 5 of us, especially with the pandemic and all that's going on in the world, one out of 5 people, maybe you or someone you know, is going to be struggling with mental illness in these times. So don't be afraid to reach out. NAMI, that's coming up this weekend on Great Day TV.
And speaking of TV, let's talk about, obviously you got into Pet Pals TV, came first. That's been around since, what did you say, 2009?
Yeah, I know. We were on Comcast On Demand once a month. I thought this is going to last about, maybe 6 months. And here we are. We're now up in all these markets. And again, I want to say I'm very lucky. I made some good investments. I got a pension that the kids now don't have. Oh, thank you. And I go to Goodwill. It's okay. I've learned to live a little differently. I volunteer for everything I do now. And I'm my own boss. That's kind of nice, too. So there you go. Great Day TV has been around.
Great Day TV.
Started off as Boomer TV in 2015. And then 2017, gosh, that seems long ago now. 2017, we went to a Great Day TV to open up. Boomer TV was about, 50s, the baby boomers. So this way I can do stories. It doesn't have to be about baby boomers. It could be younger, older. It could be anything. So, and that's, I enjoy doing that deal. It's a good counterbalance to all the news that we have. These are positive stories,
And I believe you are on an additional TV state. Great Day is on an additional TV.
Thank you, John. Yes. We just, on July the 4th, we will be on, back up. If you have AT&T or Dish Network, they're going through some negotiations right now with Wish TV. So you can't see it if you're bundled with that provider. The signal's free, and I got an antenna. But the signal's free, but if you have those 2 providers, you can't see Wish TV right now. So a friend of mine, she's over there, a sales manager now, Susan Butterball, contacted me, and we are now over on WHMV, that's Channel 40, WHMV Channel 40, every Saturday, 10:30 to 11, is a simulcast with Wish TV, with as far as the same show for Pet Pals TV, and then 11 to 11:30 is Great Day TV. So Saturday morning, if you can't get us because of your provider, you can now see us on Channel 40.
Okay.
Patty.
Eric, you want to tell us about going Krogering since you're on here?
Yeah, it's been a fascinating transition for me to move from broadcasting into the grocery business. In a sense, I traded one intensely competitive field for another. The element that stands out so much to me is the philanthropic side of what we do. There is a big part of my job is to help with Kroger's donations, and what we do is primarily supporting hunger relief. And right now, because of COVID and the number of people who are unemployed, there are Hoosiers, there are people all over the country who've never asked for food assistance before who are asking now. So we're doing our best to try to help gleaners and second helpings and food banks all over the state to try to make sure they have the resources to put food on the table for people who need it. So it's very inspiring for me to be part of that work.
And I want to get you back on TV with me too.
This has been a good warm-up. It just might work.
Hey, wait a minute. Hope's calling. Hope says that you need to do this. Hope says you should do
Well, if Hope says.
Well, this has been a lot of fun. Eric, thanks for being
thank
able
you.
to join us to shine the spotlight on Hall of Famer Patty Spitler.
Good.
This has been a lot of fun. To remind everyone, this will be available to watch again pretty much immediately after it's over here on the Indiana Broadcast Pioneers Facebook page. And it will be up on YouTube here in the next couple of days. And I think Patty
I'm trying to get Mabel up here.
Mabel wants a cameo.
And where's Ann with Reggie? Come here, Mabel. Come.
Ann and Reggie are in the next room, making sure that.
Come here.
But
Mabel,
well,
come here.
I'll get.
You might be able to summon them.
Let's see.
Good, Mabel.
There's Ann, Mabel, and Stewie. So.
Yeah.
And there is Mabel.
There's Mabel, my little rescue. Yes, she's a good girl. Oh, she's getting some white fur. Yes, she is. Just like Reggie, white fur around the mouth. Yes, this has been great, John. And I want you and Ann to come back again for Pet Pals TV and Great Day TV and do some more travel stories when you can travel.
When we can travel, the sooner the better. Thanks again. Eric, Patty, thank you very much for being a part of this. And thank all of you for tuning in. Again, this will be available to watch if you came in late or want to share this with your friends. They can watch this again on the Indiana Broadcast Pioneers Facebook page, and it will be available on YouTube. So again, thanks for joining us for another Indiana Broadcasters Hall of Fame Spotlight brought to you by the Indiana Broadcast Pioneers and the Indiana Broadcasters Hall of Fame. I'm John Cinnamon. Thanks for watching.